So I just got done watching the latest Jason Statham movie called The Beekeeper. Get used to me saying that this review. We follow Jason Statham, who is now a retired man, living a simple life, beekeeping, as some people choose to do, when an unexpected tragedy hits a little too close to home, forcing Jason Statham out of retirement from beekeeping and setting out on a rampage to get revenge on the criminals that did him wrong. That's all. Pretty much. I don't get any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. What was you expecting with The Beekeeper? Now, I know a lot of kids nowadays look at Jason Statham and they just think, oh, the guy from Fast and Furious, Shaw, he's a lot of fun, he's in the Expendables. I grew up with Jason Statham in the Jet Li movie, then the Transporter series, that was a lot of fun. I mean, that's where you had Jason Statham at his peak. Boy was shirtless, oiled up, fighting criminals. That's a real man's movie. Then there were the Crank movies that were just absolutely balls to the wall, ridiculous in some of the most fun ways. It was safe to say anytime Jason Statham was going to be popping up in an action movie with a random premise, it'd be on my list. He's lately become one of those actors like Gerard Butler or Liam Neeson, where they come out with the most random, simple premise action movies, and you're like, oh, look, I know it's not going to be that good, but seeing some guy with an accent sometimes just punching people can be a lot of fun. And that's exactly the vibe I was getting from The Beekeeper. Like, ridiculous name in itself, and I was like, okay, let's see what you got here. It only takes one of these ridiculous action premise movies to then start a franchise, right? Liam Neeson hit it off with Taken, got 3 movies. John Wick hit it off with John Wick, got 4 movies. Jason Statham had his time with Transporter and Krang, but he hasn't found his new franchise outside of Fast and Furious. Is The Beekeeper that for him? No, look, I think a lot of people are actually going to get some real good fun entertainment, because I'll tell you, my audience, they were clapping at this movie. They were having a jolly good time, and it's kind of hard not to for the first half of the movie, because the movie is about Jason Statham going after these scammers, you know, people that actually exist in our world who call up your grandma, your grandpa, tell them, you got a virus, send me thousands of dollars in Google Chrome gift cards and we'll take care of it for you. You've seen the videos online. So for like the first half of the movie, there's a real satisfying kind of like, yes, get that criminal Jason Statham, punch him, beekeep him. It's hard not to, because you're like, you 100% believe these a-hole criminals deserve what's coming to them, because nobody likes people who prey on the elderly. And you know, David Ayer is the director of this movie, which I didn't see get marketed a lot. I actually didn't find out David Ayer was part of this movie until I'm sitting down in front of the screen and it says, from the director of Suicide Squad and Fury. I'm like, oh, David Ayer made this movie? You can tell he knows this is kind of a ridiculous, absurd premise, and he just kind of speeds along with it. You don't spend that much time building up to the situation, trying to get familiar with everybody. It's like, Jason Statham's a beekeeper. Okay, good. He has a relationship with this woman. Okay, good. She gets scammed. He's pissed. Let's go. And I appreciate that, because I do love me throwbacks to 80s, 90s action movies when it was just guys punching bad guys. I feel like that's the reason I'm really enjoying the show Reacher. There's just something so satisfying about seeing good guy fight bad guy and good guy sometime win. And if really that's all you're expecting and just wanting to see to blow a little bit of your time, it's gonna deliver on that. This is a rated R action movie, so that's a bonus into getting to see some blood and criminals just go down in a very nasty way. There is a decent amount of humor also added on. There's 2 FBI agents that just like bicker back and forth in kind of an amusing way. I think the biggest laughs you'll get is just the amount of bee puns in here, because it was one thing what I did at the beginning of this video. I couldn't help but to chuckle every time they threw in a tiny bee pun. There's not that many, but there's enough where you're like, oh, they did that. Okay. And last big positive I want to give this movie before jumping to some of the things I'm mixed and negative about, Josh Hutcherson. Josh Hutcherson plays like the main villain, the head of this scamming industry, and the boy is having fun. Not just in his physical appearance, but just the way he acts out. He's a brat, he's a nuisance. And as a guy who's just always liked Josh Hutcherson, I'm just glad he's starting to get a little bit more roles. So that was really nice. But okay, getting some things I'm mixed and negative about and I think is going to hold back the movie. You can't help but to watch The Beekeeper and not see all the John Wick-isms in this movie. Because the whole beekeeping lore in society, I applaud them for trying to create something here with a little bit of intrigue. And I gotta admit, there's parts of it where I'm like, oh, if you dived a little deeper into that, it could have been something. But the parts they do dive into this beekeeping society and the people who protect the hive, it just like gives off strong John Wick vibes. They even have like a call center of people like in the John Wick universe, and you're like, yeah, that's okay, real creative with this one, aren't we? I don't want to go as far as to say it's like a John Wick ripoff, but there's enough parallels in there between the story elements and the way things progress where you're like, John Wick just did that better. Another thing here is, like, I love Jason Statham, and I am always rooting for this guy, and I want him to have his next big action franchise. The man feels like he's on autopilot in this movie. Like, you cannot really distinguish his role here and the last random 2-3 action movies he's done. Very stoic, quiet to himself, and somebody's got to take care of this, and I'm gonna be the one to do it. When you go to like Shaw or Transport or even Crank, there was real personality in those people. Sure, he was like stoic and the action type and would get things done, but he had a personality. He had a bit of charm to him. Here, he's just quiet. There's sometimes in the movie where I'm like, Jason Statham is the lead, is the main character, but he feels almost like a secondary character with how little he talks, with how little he interacts. He's just there to punch, do something cool, and then leave, and then we're with the FBI people for a little bit. That sucks to say, because I think Jason Statham is a real talent. The other thing I thought was holding it back from me making this like a guilty pleasure fun movie that I can enjoy even knowing it's not great is some of the action isn't all that special. There are a handful of cool action scenes thrown in there. There's like an elevator sequence that I thought was fun. Then the ending battle with this, I think, Australian guy was also really fun. But other than that, it's a lot of generic punch, camera zooms. Like, there's nothing really unique about it. But even with all that said, I could definitely see enough action fans who long for the days of the old 80s, 90s movies to just walk away having a good time. You're getting to see a good guy take down some criminals, punch them along the way. It was enjoyable enough. I don't think it's anything memorable or anything that'll maybe even warrant a sequel. I think Jason Statham is still on the lookout for his next franchise. Maybe go back to Death Race, because I really loved that. But for me personally, while I enjoyed aspects of it and I really wanted to play into the meme of the Beekeeper, it just didn't do enough to like fully amaze me. So with the Beekeeper, I'm gonna give action 3.5 stars. Like I said, there's a handful of cool action moments sprinkled throughout, but a lot of it feels like generic studio action that we've seen. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I think there are a good amount of jokes thrown in there. I would have liked to have seen Jason Statham get a little bit more charismatic in there, but a lot of the humor will rely on the FBI agents, and some of their jokes were hit and miss. Josh Hutcherson was pretty funny though. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. It's a very simple revenge premise. You mess with this person, I'm gonna get you back, to the point that when mission is completed, movie is just quickly trying to end. Horror in the movie, I'll give 0.5 star too. There's just a little bit of blood and violence in there, but there's a lot of also CGI blood, which is always annoying to me. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. I don't think there was a lot of suspense in here. Jason Statham is playing one of those do-it-all action heroes where nobody can beat him up, no one can hurt him until it's the last 10 minutes. Somebody's got to damage this guy. But other than that, it's pretty predictable to where it's headed. Casual fans, I'm gonna give it a B+. Like I said, my audience was clapping so much, they enjoyed this. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a C+. I think we've just seen this kind of action movie done a lot. And critically, I'm going to give it a C-. For the Beekeeper, while I do think it's entertaining and fun in a kind of dumb way that you can check out, it's best suited to see it when you can rent it or stream it at home.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
Like I said, there'll be enough people that find enjoyment out of it and get a real kick out of it. I see the potential in here, and I feel like Jason Statham is just made for something greater. So I don't know if there'll ever be a Beekeeper 2. But I hope he continues on with these action movies, because Jason Statham is fun to watch. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.